Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 2, the cow, from verses 270 to 274. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. In the name of God, the merciful, the gracious. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُهُ وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. Whatever charity you give or a pledge you fulfill, God knows it. The wrongdoers have no helpers. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم والله بما تعملون خبير. If you give charity openly, that is good. But if you keep it secret and give it to the needy in private, that is better for you. It will atone for some of your misdeeds. God is cognizant of what you do. ليس عليك هداهم ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وما تنفقوا من خير فلأنفسكم وما تنفقون إلا ابتغاء وجه الله وما تنفقوا من خير يوفى إليكم وأنتم لا تظلمون. Their guidance is not your responsibility, but God guides whom He wills. Any charity you give is for your own good. Any charity you give shall be for the sake of God. Any charity you give will be repaid to you in full, and you will not be wrong. للفقراء الذين أحصروا في سبيل الله لا يستطيعون ضربا في الأرض يحسبهم الجاهل أغنياء من التعفف تعرفهم بسيماهم لا يسألون الناس إلحافا وما تنفقوا من خير فإن الله به عليم. It is for the poor, those who are restrained in the way of God and unable to travel in the land. The unaware would think them rich due to their dignity. You will recognize them by their features. They do not ask from people insistently. Whatever charity you give, God is aware of it. الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار سرا وعلانية فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Those who spend their wealth by night and day, privately and publicly, will receive their reward from their Lord. They have nothing to fear, nor shall they grieve. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God the Great said the truth. These verses are carrying on from the importance on how you should be approaching your religion in regards to giving from what God has provided for you. Charity is something that's extremely important. As God states again that if you are giving charity, it is a form for you to atone some of your sins. Because us as human beings, we tend to find ourselves becoming selfish, and we start to look forward to the things that we will gain, and we start to have a lot of importance in things that we have gained. It becomes very important to us, and we tend to get sad when things are taken away from us. So it's very easy for a human being to fall into selfishness. But for our societies to actually flourish and for us to be people who are accepting and thankful for God's blessings upon us, it is imperative for us to give from what God has provided for us. We technically do not need that much for us to survive. Yes, the more money we have, the more comfort we can find. But comfort is something that can be taken as something that is almost as an obsession, or something that is mandatory for you, and you place it upon yourself as something that is utmost, but yet the society suffers because the people who start to become extremely comfortable, they end up not giving any of their money. Now, God states here that whatever charity you're giving or whatever pledge you fulfill, God is aware of it. And then God is saying about the people who are oppressing themselves or the wrongdoers, because they do not give their charities and they do not fulfill their pledges. So these are two important topics that you need to actually be very fully aware of, because in the end of the day, that if you are not doing these simple things, you are a wrongdoer in the eyes of God, and God will not assist you. So without the assistance of God, you're not going to make the correct decisions. Giving charity and the love for charity and recognizing the good places to give your money. So it does not necessarily have to be given to actual foundations and specific individuals, but rather you have to have an eye open, because it's very easy nowadays to find people who are needy, who do need that extra assistance. I know in some countries it's difficult to assist certain individuals because they suffer from certain mental health issues and they're on the streets because of those mental health issues due to some of the intoxicants that they consume. But those individuals still need to eat. Those individuals still need to be clothed. Those individuals still need a kind word and a gentle reminder that this is not the way, and everything truly has an exit if they try to find said exit in their issues when it comes down to the intoxicants that they unfortunately have fell into as a trap. Now God is telling us and saying to us that, giving charity in the open is not something that should be frowned upon, because there are people that give their charity in the open just so that the people would notice that they give charity, yet they don't believe in God in the last day. Those individuals, unfortunately, are committing a crime, and whatever they're giving in charity is not going to avail them on the day of judgment. They're doing it just so that they would be considered as pious people, but yet a pious person would understand that his creator is worthy of being worshipped. Now, God is also giving us and telling us the better way when it comes down to charities is to give it in private and to give it in a way where it's in secret, because in that way you are, one, moving away from the concept of being a person that's giving it to show off to people or to fall, so that you don't fall in the trap where you might think that you're doing it in the name of God and for God, but yet unfortunately you are also happy with people recognizing you and praising you for the charity that you give. So God is suggesting for you to keep it private because it is better for you in that regards, and it completely makes sense. Now, this is a very important verse that came up, the one in 272. God is telling the prophet, but God is also telling you that it is not your responsibility to guide people. The guidance is in the hands of God. God has clearly put the conditions for someone to find God's guidance. As we earlier saw, that if you are a person that does not fulfill your pledge, that you don't fulfill your pledges, nor do you give charity, then God is not going to support you. You are a wrongdoer, and God does not support the wrongdoer. But this is something that's extremely awesome in this verse. God says that the responsibility is upon God, and then God goes back to talking about charity. And you giving money is the form of guidance that you should be looking for, because you having the ability to overcome your almost internal need of being selfish, this default position that most humans end up being, where they become hateful to give some of the money that they earned, or they start to worry about that maybe they don't have enough money, which God already told us that the devil is the one who promises you poverty. And it's very easy for a human to accept those kind of conditions or assumptions. But the true guidance is having the ability to give the money when it's supposed to be given. And God is telling you the conditions of the charity, where it's you are only giving it for the sake of God or to meet your Lord with it. What you are using this money is going to be given back to you, because as long as you are doing it for the sake of God, you're not going to be wrong. It's going to be multiplied. It's going to be something that you are going to be extremely pleased with on the day of judgment. Now, one thing that I kind of think about from time to time is obviously the regrets of a disbeliever on the day of judgment is, I wish I listened. I wish I was a person who opted to be pious, not to be a joker, not to be a clown, or not to be an oppressor. I wish I listened to the message of God so that I could find the mercy of my Lord on the day of judgment. But yet, I think the believer also have some regrets during the judgment. It's where I wish I gave more. I wish I did a little bit more. I had capacity to do more. This is something that you're going to think about on the day of judgment, because you're going to realize how short this life is. And maybe you took some things for extreme importance, or you thought that at that point you needed more of the money that you earned and you were not able to give as much. But yet on the day of judgment, you realize, hindsight, that you could have gave more, and you were actually aware in that moment that you had the capacity to give more. And you're going to understand on how much that money that you gave is being multiplied and how amazing your gift could be. So you're going to only think to yourself, I wish I did give that extra $5 or that extra $10 in those moments. It's just because I would have found even a bigger reward with God, and God would have even been more pleased with me. Because the thing about charity is you have to understand there is a fine line between you abusing yourself by overgiving and then you keep yourself almost needing a charity, and between giving meagerly and not giving enough. But when you achieve that good balance, knowing exactly what is a good number to give, at that point you're finding the maximum reward with your Lord, and you are using the wisdom that God has given you and the intellect that God has given you, where you are going to be extremely close to God on the day of judgment. You are also basing it on faith at times, where I am going to give this money. I don't foresee any money coming in, but I'm going to rely on my God. This individual in this moment requires the money more than I do. I'm going to spend this money and God is going to feed me and God is going to clothe me. And all praise to my Lord, I already have a job, but we'll see where the money will come. And in those moments and that reliance on God, the reason why you did it is not so that people will see you. And yes, it's for that person to feel good that he was helped. But truly, you want God to recognize that loyalty and that passion that you have for his religion. Now, there are a set of people where they use this concepts, where they know that people who are religious or people who adhere to religion, they have to give from their money. So I personally, maybe I don't have to work. Maybe I can just go bum around the mosque, wear a little bit of bad clothes, pretend to be poor, just to sit and kind of take advantage of these rules that God has set out for humanity, and just to sit and beg for people to give me from their money. But yet, unfortunately, those individuals tend to show themselves, and in the long run, it's very clear because they're always there. And they have the ability to find jobs and they have the abilities to be good, upstanding citizens, especially if they're in their 30s or 40s as individuals, I mean, males in their 30s or 40s. Or on the other hand, females that do also do the panhandling, but then at the end of the day, they get into a nice car when somebody comes picks them up, where it's very clear that they didn't need that money. But God is telling you about the people where, because of the way of God, they ended up losing their property or losing their ability to maneuver in the world. But they have that dignity where they do not want to ask that charity from the people. You see their faces, and the way that they dress and the way that they act, you don't think that they're poor. They're showing that self-dignity and that respect that they have, that God has given them just because they're believers, where you recognize that they they don't seem poor. But the person who has a little bit of knowledge, or a person who is able to actually deduce from the person's actions and the way that he actually conducts himself, you could see that they might need money. And those people are actually extremely worthy of getting help and getting a little bit of money. A good example in this day and age is what's going on in the situation in Palestine, where people are losing their homes, kids are being pushed out to the streets with their families, their moms and dads, but yet you don't see the moms and dads begging and going around and constantly asking for money. They're just putting up with what's going on and they're relying on their Lord. And you can see that the way that the parents are speaking, they're speaking with dignity. They don't want to be a burden on society. They don't want to be a burden on people. And this happens just because they accept that this is what God is testing us with. Those individuals are extremely worthy to help them. You approach them, you say, I know that you're going through a rough time. I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I really wish that you would have these $300, $400, $500 because I have it extra, and you have a family. Don't worry about it. This is for God. Anyways, this is from God, and I hope that you have a nice day. You don't have to make them feel bad about it. You just explain your side of the things, and you'll see that there are people who tend to be extremely grateful. The times that I know that I've truly helped somebody who's worth helping is you could see the gratefulness and the happiness that comes out of them when you do support them with what God has given you. While the person who it's his job or her job to sit and beg for money, and that's how they make a living when it's not appropriate, when they are just technically being scam artists, when you give them the money, to them there's no happiness, there's no joy. They don't feel thankful because it's like, hey, I asked you and I did my part. So now you have to pay me because it's your job to pay me. And if you don't pay me, some people go as far as insulting you. Obviously, these people have have issues, but God did give us a way to gauge the people that need it from the people that don't. Now God is telling us about the true identity of a good believer. Those who spend their wealth by day, by night, privately, publicly, will receive the reward from their Lord. They have nothing to fear, nor shall they grieve. Now, God opens up this chapter by telling us that the guidance is for a certain group of people, those who believe in the unseen, who perform the prayer, who give from what God has given them, who believe in what came down to Muhammad, or what came down, yes, to Muhammad, and what came before Muhammad, and they believe in the hereafter. Those people will have no fear and they will not grieve. They follow the signs of God. Now, God is telling us about people who have the ability to spend their money in night and in day, publicly, privately. They try to not lose an opportunity where they could be a helpful individual for someone who is needy. Those people are truly guided, because on the day of judgment they will have no fear, nor shall they grieve. They understand that this is what God has ordered me to do, because this is how we allow society to flourish. These are the commandments of God, and I'm going to fulfill them at any opportunity that I have. God tells us about those that compete. They compete with themselves. They compete by racing and rushing towards the opportunities to be good doers. And there's other individuals that they wait till the opportunity comes to them, and once in a while they give, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as I said, those individuals, unfortunately, on the day of judgment, might have a few regrets that they had the ability, they had the capacity, they had the knowledge to go find people that require help and give those people that do help. But instead, they chose to just take the average or bare minimum. And you don't want to find yourself on a day of judgment just coming with the bare minimum, only because you yourself will say that I wish I did more. And any feeling of regret on the day of judgment is not something that you want to feel. Regret is not a positive emotion, and God is trying to save us. Well, God can save us if we try to listen to what God says in regards to these negative feelings that we can find ourselves on the day of judgment. Like if we oppressed somebody, or if we said something that's incorrect, or if we hurt somebody in a way that we shouldn't done so, or we did not apply the verse of God when we should. And when God asks us about it, we're going to feel bad. And this is what God is giving us here as a warning and as a good tiding, that you want to save yourself from that position where you are embarrassed, or where you do feel remorseful, or where you do find that regret. Now, with that said, imagine that this believer, when he does find his God, and he sees his God in front of him, or he realizes that he got resurrected blindly, how do you think he's going to feel inside? That to me truly is the start of hell. But again, on a believer, it's those missed opportunities where we're going to feel a little burn inside our heart, where I wish I took it out. I would be in a better position. And with that said, I hope you guys are enjoying these. All praise to our Lord, and peace be upon you.